On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
You said
You like it, did you?
listen,
I'd
listen.
love to meet this. I'd love to meet this guy because he sounds ultra beta,
Well,
and you
I bet
probably
you
just
he ain't.
found a really good beta. That's really what it
I,
is.
I bet you he ain't.
We'll find out. We gonna find
You know,
out.
actually, he belongs to the same frat that Kevin Samuels belonged to.
It
So
ain't
I
got
dare
nothing to do
you
with a frat. It's
disrespect
a
him.
bunch of beta guys in frats. It's about your
I dare
mentality.
you disrespect him.
It's a
There
bunch of
are.
beta guys in frats.
I can tell you about several people, but I'll use one of my really closest girlfriends as an example. Her husband does very well. He's beta. See, anytime somebody disagrees, y'all do the name call.
All they can do is
No,
spit it out.
listen.
That's it. That's all they can do.
So there is a man
So why you
that
ain't call into a show when he said free smoke? He was looking for you, Tawanna.
I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't know now. Come on, fam.
Well, I didn't know that he was talking. I didn't know that he said anything specific about me.
He did a whole show about you, D Nix, and everything. And then he said free smoke, call in. And he invited y'all, but y'all don't want to have a real conversation with him. But y'all got wait. But y'all got all this sass to say right here, but in real life, y'all not trying to have it.
Oh well, Kevin Samuels,
Hey,
send that invite again, honey. I missed it. I'm ready. I'm ready for you.
All right, we're going to kick it off with our first topic, which is the recap. Responding directly to Kevin Samuels. The recap responding directly to Kevin Samuels. I don't know if you guys tuned in last week, but Kevin Samuels did enter the chat, and he was tuning in to our last broadcast. And his next live that night was particularly about our podcast. And he had a few things to say, which a lot of people tagged us in, and we listened in. So we all talked about it. We had some conversations, and I just want to kind of get you guys like responses when it comes to Kevin Samuels. I'm gonna start with you, Tawanna. I know you heard the actual live in its entirety. Let's talk.
What I think about Kevin Samuels' reaction. So let me say this. I think that he was like personally offended because he felt like one, we criticized his fans, like his followers and people who come to him for advice. And then I think he kind of personally attacked B Nix. So I'll let B Nix address that because I don't really want to talk specifically about his attacks to B Nix, but I do want to speak to some of the things that he said that I stand by 100%, that I would never let Kevin Samuels or probably many men validate me and how I feel about myself. As I guess women do let that happen, but 30 seconds into the conversation, I probably would have hung up. I'm never going to let someone talk to me that way or tolerate any level of disrespect. And that's just my opinion. I did not feel like I said anything wrong, except that I felt like I wanted to know more about why these women needed validation from him and why they felt it was necessary for him to define, them. And I'm speaking specifically to the women who call his show. So, yeah, that's what I got to say about Mr. Samuels. But, all respect. I welcome a dialogue with him and any conversation he may have. But again, you won't get the validation from Tawanna. No. Not today, not ever. Next.
Antoine, I'm coming to you next. When you heard the actual live over again, how did you feel about what Kevin Samuels said?
You sure you want me to go right now?
Yeah,
bro, this is early. I think that if everybody actually listened to the live and if they actually paid attention to what he was saying, if you implemented it and you utilized it, you would become you would really grow and become a better version, because for me, it's nothing better than hearing people give it to me straight. It's nothing better than hearing people absolutely take out all of the fluff, take away all of the feeling, and just get straight to it and say, yo, what it is, this is how we addressing it. And it was all valid 100% because first of all, he didn't necessarily solicit anything from us, but we were using him as the trampoline by which we needed to make certain points, right? And so obviously I had a completely different perspective and from everybody else on the panel. But, you know, I talked to him personally and we were kicking it. And he was like, he straight up. He don't play no games. He not here for people's feelings. I think that he did address Tawanna specifically. I don't know if she missed a lot of it, but he did address her.
Oh, did he? Tell me what he said, Antoine. I was less. I don't know if I recall. I might have tuned out after.
I don't think you really want to hear that part.
I'm okay.
But we'll get into it after I let everybody else kind of speak.
I guess we can't play the video, but y'all can tell me what it is verbatim. I love to hear it.
I will say that
so I
can. He was absolutely accurate and 100%. I don't disagree with not one thing that he said. And shout out to the Godfather. Shout out to Unc for continuing to tap in, and you know, I'll say.
So Antoine, can you tell me what he said though? I'm serious. I really want to know because I'm curious what Kevin.
We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it.
Okay, good. Thank you. I would love.
We're gonna talk about Unc as Antoine refers to him as. B Nix, coming to you, brother. When you heard that live, how did you feel about what Kevin Samuels said?
I'm not a subscriber, so I didn't even know when his shows goes live. To be honest, JR hit me up. Well, you being JR hit me up, so I checked it out. It created a lot of dialogue, and actually, I had a lot of conversations with people outside of this group, people I trust, my cousin, a couple of my guys, my lady, and I think one thing I want to reiterate, I was always clear that, you know, I guess I'm tone police, you know, I get that. But I never was against like the message on what he was saying. I think I was more so still kind of, and I think I was clear about, I was saying that I had an issue with the delivery, but you know, one thing I did realize that this is entertainment. People call him in order to get his perspective. And Anton, actually, you kind of hit it on the head. He speaks from a very matter of fact. I'm coming from a different creed. You know, I think that the business in which I work in, you know, it is about being able to ensure equity and tone on how you communicate with folks. So I respect that, brother, but more so not based on just the content of his show, but the journey. And I think that's something I always talk about, like whenever we have these shows. That brother, you know, had his bachelor's in chemical engineering. My brother, you know, came from the same thing with industrial engineering, and he worked his way up. You know, he built this empire and stuff, you know. So for that part that removes it from like the entertainment aspect.
Sorry about that. Pretty sure B Nix will be right back in. Ashley, I want to come to you now. You on the outside looking in, and that's the reason why I have you on here as far as with this particular topic. And I wanted to know, just from you watching from the outside, what were your thoughts?
Well, I do want to say, I want to preface everything that I say by saying I actually agree with some of what Kevin Samuels said. I think his main message is that women need to be more realistic in what they are seeking in a man. And I agree with that. I think women have to realize that, you know, looks play a role. For a lot of men, age plays a role. And whether or not you have children plays a role. Like, I completely agree that women generally need to be more realistic in what they're wanting. If you want a certain type of man, you have to make sure that you're compatible to that type of man. I don't really make an issue with his tone. I don't respect when he calls people out of their names. For instance, when he called the young woman a bride, he defended the way he approached her, but literally before he said that, he said, "Oh, you're a sweet girl." Get off my phone, bride. So I don't agree with that. But I do appreciate how blunt he is. I'm a blunt person. I like people who are matter of fact. I try to be respectful to people. I think you can be honest and be respectful. I don't think that Kevin Samuels is wrong for being blunt and honest. Um, I do think that a lot of people listen to what he's saying on the surface level. Women respond and they're usually very emotional because they don't like the way it's coming off. And a lot of women relate to what he's talking about. A lot of women do have kids outside of wedlock. A lot of women are single moms, and it hits home to them. So obviously it's going to ruffle some feathers. I think people need to look a little bit more critically, though. I believe men love it because it's like, oh, look, we can put all these supposed successful women in their place and humble them, But I think he doesn't tell the whole story. I don't agree with everything that he says. For instance, this whole danger zone thing, I don't agree with it because it's not real. You can't really shame women for being single at a certain age when throughout their 20s, most of the men that they would marry are not being prepared for marriage. Like, it's just ridiculous
We're
to
doing
me.
wrong.
So
That's what you're 100% wrong.
no, I'm not. Let me tell you why. Because there are women who are marriage material. There are women who are good women who don't make bad choices, who carry themselves well, respect other people, and I know how I was raised. And when I was in my 20s, a lot of these guys out here they're not marriage material. And the things that people teach, and I'm not saying everybody, Antoine. I know you were married very young. I'm not saying everybody, but generally speaking, young boys are not taught to go to college and find a wife. That is not what they're taught. And so I know for a fact, because my mom taught me to be a certain way. I wanted to go to college and potentially meet my husband, but the vast majority of the boys in college are not checking for the wholesome girls you take home to mama. They're not. They're checking for girls who are a little out there. And so and then it's like your mindset, like when you're very young, you're not being taught to be a husband. So it completely
You don't understand, man.
it makes so much sense that you would have a 27-year-old woman or 30-year-old woman that is single. Like who is she supposed to marry if everybody's teaching the guys, oh, go sow your wild oats, go get as many girls as you can, don't commit, and then they're telling the girls something different. I don't agree with that. So there are some things that I think men need to look a little bit more critically about, as opposed to just kind of co-signing everything. I also think that just because you are a high earning man doesn't necessarily mean you're deserving of what I would consider the best women. Maybe a pretty one. But let me finish. I think men equate, y'all don't want to hear it, but men equate best to pretty. And you could, if that's what you think best is, then I think that's great. But if you want a woman that has more substance and she's more than a pretty face, I think you have to come with more than money. Okay. And I think that a lot of Kevin Samuels is making a lot of guys who aspire to be these high earning men think that all they need to do and all they need to accomplish is money, financial gain, a network. And it's just a very superficial method of dating. Now, if you're okay with being used for your money, then that's fine. If you're okay with being used for your money, and I mean, we see this all the time. We see this every single time. Look at Tracy Morgan. Look at Cam Newton. There's so many people who, as soon as they get the money, they go get the prettiest girl they can find. And then what happens? She usually uses them, takes their money.
Hey, I do got a question.
How do you know what men
follow
think?
up to that?
How do you know what men think?
What do you mean? What men think? I'm
I
going
do
by
got a
what
follow
men
up to
do.
that though, too.
I'm going by the ops.
Okay, we're gonna
Yes,
come to you
I'm
next.
going by what I see. Actually, not what I
Mhm.
think.
Well,
Your
Yeah,
experience.
you
but
know what?
What they
but
think.
what you don't understand is that
You know what? But
we as men,
I'll
even
go ahead,
back when we
Anton.
are
I got a
younger and
comment
in
after you.
college, even us as men, even when we like younger and in college in our earlier 20s, we slot women, right? So just because we rocking with this chick over here and young guys may be sleeping with this specific woman does not mean that he does not have another girl that he's eyeing that makes sense for them. So for you to highlight that this is how guys think just shows me that a I know you don't watch Kevin Samuel's whole shows because he specifically champions and highlights men that move a specific way, and he highlights and champions men like regular guys. But what you
You
don't
know what though?
understand is that he speaks to an audience that's here. If you are looking to get here, it's not about just being wholesome. And so I think that what you should do is start asking the questions of, okay, what are men
It's
that
not.
are
It's
here?
not.
What do they want? And then how can I meet that expectation? It's not enough to just say, yo, they don't want this. It's more about educating yourself. And what he does is he educates people on, yo, if you move in a specific type of way and this is what your expectations are, this is what you need to be
What he
asking
says
and
is
making adjustments.
every man.
But also, I think it goes back to just the role of the man as well. I think Anton, this goes back to a few shows, and we were talking about just going to college, getting degrees, and things like that. Even though I, personally feel I'm doing it just based on my own well-being and development, it still relates to me being able to equate a certain amount of money. So the thing is, I think it does align with this way of thinking that, you know what, in order to get a certain type of chick, we do certain things. That's why you see a woman, see somebody that has a certain car that they drive or a certain home that they buy. So I think what Kevin Samuels is really saying, it speaks to a certain demographic of both men and women. If women want a certain type of man, you do look for somebody that has certain criteria to meet. And I'm not saying anything is against that. And I actually, you know what? I'll be honest. I watched this brother whole show. I've never watched a whole show of him before. And I didn't watch it by myself. I watched it along with other people, and we had good discussion about the way we look at things. But I think it does relate to the fact that women do view men as far as how much they're not earning, but their potential earnings. We talked about this earlier, the opportunity cost. If I'm
How
with
y'all
you,
gonna tell
how
us
much
how we
money can you
view
earn in order to bring back to this relationship?
But that's the thing.
I
It don't really
men?
matter.
We can't define
It don't really matter
manhood
what y'all
if y'all
viewing
can
like.
tell us how we view men.
But it don't
That's the
But
same
matter.
thing women do.
This
Women
is
tell same
ridiculous.
thing women do to men.
This is
It don't
ridiculous.
matter what you view men like.
Let me address this
Well,
bitter.
the
Let me address this bitter comment for Mr. Kevin Samuels. I hope you're watching, Mr. Kevin Samuels, but I'm so bitter. Let's just talk about this comment for a minute. Because Jim Brown, thank you, Jim Brown. He told me what Kevin Samuels said. He broke it down. And so I want to address that. Okay. I am very happy in my life, and I'm not bitter. Nor am I single, honey. Nor am I searching or desperate, and nor do I need your validation to tell me what man I can get in my life, honey. My life is great. So therefore, let's keep my name out of it, and let's talk about my comments and the things that I said that I felt like I supported with my reasoning. No, I don't validate him. I feel very the opposite of what Ashley is saying. No, I don't think that he has any valid points that he could give to a woman. And I do think that he has a certain demographic that is great that he talks to, and I'm okay with that. But do not try to pigeonhole me into his ideals and make me think that I can't have a man that I want, that I envision for my life, that I envision for myself based on some shallow physical characteristics that he defined, and he gives us all these terminologies to ascribe to. No. I'll never let nobody do this. Never.
I just think people.
First of all,
King
Griff, I am getting married, honey.
Well,
No,
I'll be married in a couple of months.
Hey, but Tawanna, I know that you talked about your situation, but also remember we had that show about the deception, right? And we had the show about the deception where we talked about how men may lie about their credit score or their earnings, things like that, even though that's not necessarily what Kevin Samuels is saying, but it does create this mindset that men feel that, you know what, if I earn the top dollar, we see this with rappers, right?
It's kind of breaking up a little bit.
Is they do this in order to make themselves more attractive to women.
Obviously, women.
What are y'all talking about?
You all need to.
I don't know.
I didn't say that.
I got to be a little more critical. I agree that money is important. I don't think any sensible woman would say that, oh, money is not important. And I don't think that's a bad thing. If you are marrying somebody, your husband needs to be able to provide, like point blank, period. I'm not saying that the woman should never work. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it is a basic requirement that a lot of Black men tend to think is a bonus. And it's not. It's not a bonus. It is a basic requirement. Now, I'm not
providing,
but I'm not saying providing. But I'm not saying that a man who makes millions of dollars should go and get with any Black woman. I'm not saying, or any woman. He has his pick of the litter. I understand that, but be more realistic. What type? Let me say this: what type of woman are you getting if you're using your money to bait them?
I think most.
All the time.
What are y'all?
We're not.
Listen. Don't listen to that last narrative that B Nix just gave about guys baiting women with money. It has nothing to do with bait. What you gotta listen. You gotta listen. If you want to understand exactly what's happening, you gotta pay attention. Listen, it's not about baiting women. All right. It's about the fact that we have options. When you get to a certain level, I don't have to bait anybody because
whatever you want to call it.
Stop.
Whatever you want to call it.
Only one at a time, y'all. One at a time.
I'm gonna teach you something because, and you got to be receptive. If you want to get to this level, apparently you don't want it. I mean, apparently you don't want this type of guy. And if you just want to be
what
basic,
do you mean?
if you want to be basic,
are you giving her a lesson on how to get a high?
If you want to be basic and you want to be regular, then keep over talking me and don't pay attention to what it is that the game that I'm giving you, because it ain't for everybody. You know what I'm saying? So
they love to call you names and belittle you and degrade.
You said who was they?
What names did I call?
No, not you. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking in general about men who have these hierarchy, this elitist attitude. It's a way to kind of keep you, I don't know, insecure. It's like to keep you in that mindset so that you can be easily manipulated.
Listen.
I'm not the one.
Here's the thing.
Tawanna, I'm going to ask you a question.
If women are listening to how you're thinking, Tawanna, they are going to be
they gonna get them a man just like me, and they gonna be happy because my man make me so happy.
So much sass.
My man make me so much happy, and you know what? He love this sass because he sure put a ring on it.
This is what I'm saying. Like you said,
I'd love to meet this guy because he sounds ultra beta.
Well,
you probably just found a really good beta. That's really what it is.
I bet you he ain't.
We'll find out. We're gonna find out.
You know, actually, he belongs to the same frat that Kevin Samuels belongs to. So I dare him disrespect him.
It's a bunch of beta guys in frats. It's about your mentality.
You disrespect him.
It's a bunch of beta guys in frats.
I can tell you about several people, but I'll use one of my really closest girlfriends as an example. Her husband does very well. He's beta. See, anytime somebody disagrees, y'all do the name call.
all they can do is
listen.
That's it. That's all they can do.
So there is a man.
So why you ain't call into a show when he said free smoke? He was looking for you, Tawanna.
I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't know now. Come on, fam.
Well, I didn't know that he was talking. I didn't know that he said anything specific about me.
He did a whole show about you, B Nix, and everything. And then he said free smoke. Call in, and he invited y'all, but y'all don't want to have a real conversation with him. But y'all got all this sass to say right here, but in real life, y'all not trying to have it.
Oh well, Kevin Samuels, send that invite again, honey. I missed it. I'm ready I'm ready for you.
Kevin Samuels does not
Right.
tell the whole truth.
Send me,
Point
send
blank.
me
Next, go
that
ahead.
invite again, honey. I'm ready for
Hold on,
you.
you guys. Hold on. Go ahead, Nix. What you about to say?
I don't know. I feel like I missed where the debate was going in. I've been having internet connection. So, JR, only thing I wanted to say, like, hey, Ashley, you talked about it as very matter of fact. I don't subscribe to him. I don't. But you know what? It's an audience. It's people that people call in for advice, right? The thing is, it's like, hey, to each his own. Tawanna, it doesn't speak for you. I don't think that he speaks for all people. But the thing is, that's cool. So I mean, hey, but the people he do speak to, hey, that's what they want to hear, right? Because
Oh, he said tomorrow.
No,
He said tomorrow night at 10 a.m. I'll be there, Kevin.
Can I finish
Hey.
making
I'll be there, Kevin. Be there or be square.
I think you're assuming that every woman
I'll bring out my smoke too.
is a high value man. Your definition of a high value man, and definitely certainly not Kevin Samuels' definition of a high value man, is my definition. To me, money is important, but it's one aspect. You can't have money and a lot of other issues. Like, you just can't. And I think that you all see a lot of women who are drawn by money. They're motivated by money. But these are the very same women that you yourselves always say are not the ones you want to marry. But you're basing your idea of yourself based off of those women. There is more to being a husband and being a high value man than having money. I've met guys with lots of money. I don't necessarily.
Again.
But you know what? One of the things Ashley talked about was the sexual marketplace, right?
Hold on, B-Nix. Hold
on, man.
Hold on. Ashley, this is how I know you're not familiar with his work and you don't watch his show, because what you're saying is not aligned with what he says. He says nothing about the fact that it only takes money. And so
but
you
identify.
No. But hold on.
That's all he talks about.
Stop. It's not. And that's how I know you don't
That's
watch
not all he
the
talks
whole
about,
show. Because you're saying that my values different, or what it is that I align with is completely different from what he aligns with. But then the things that you identify as things that he don't align with is completely false. And so that's the problem is that people are making assumptions based off of what they think. And that's why we got two ears and one mouth, because we need to listen more than we are expressing what it is that we feel, because there are facts.